Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I said earlier at the General Assembly that we wished also this reception to be food for thought. So, and we have a keynote speaker who is really a gentleman who's going to help us think about the future. Our guest is a gentleman by the name of Luc de Brabander. Now, for those who know a bit of Belgium, they know that that means that he's from the province which existed in the past, which was Brabant, which is the all over Brussels. This guy, he was born in '48. He's a young guy, like me. So he became first he went to polytechnics, you know, for engineering in the city of Louvain. You know, for those who don't know, Louvain is one of the oldest universities in Europe. He first graduated as engineer in math, so it's a very good man in terms of equations and numbers and figures. And then later on, because he is also passionate about philosophy, he got a graduation in philosophy. And then when you look at his career, it's quite amazing what he did, because he started like being, at the time we had a big bank, Générale de Banque, which no longer exists, which was swallowed by Fortis, but he was in charge of the ICT service, and then he was appointed general manager of the Stock Exchange of Brussels, which is totally different stuff, but where also calculation is not bad. And then later on, I will go a bit rapidly on what he was doing, but he was so smart, so well known in the city that he was hired by the Boston Consulting Group. As you know, one of the most smarter consulting group in the world. And he became a specialist of the change management in the organization, trying to help company to make a scenario and strategic plans. And to that extent, he was well known in Brussels by thinking out of the box, thinking in all directions, forming new boxes. So he's a gentleman who is very innovative. He has written lots of books of all this thinking, and he's still today a senior advisor with the Boston Consulting Group. He has a company by the name of Cartoon Base, which he will explain what we'll do with this, and he's also a teacher at Louvain and at the Central School in Paris. It's also, and to make it a bit personal, he's also a fanatic, not a fanatic, but a very good friend of public transit. And he's also a great biker. He has been to Rome, he has been to Saint-Jacques-de-Compostelle in Spain with his bike. So he's a very multifaceted gentleman. I thought, he's kind of not friends of mine, I thought that it was interesting to have 30 minutes with him just to make our mind a bit, you know, boggling or being shaken, just to see that instead of always being rational, there are other things to do if you want to have creative thinking. Luc, may I give you the floor?
Good evening, and thanks, Alain, for this introduction. Creative thinking is my passion, definitely. And I'm so happy tonight to share this passion with you. I'm not alone. I have a friend in the back of the room whose name is Martin, and he's going to work with me. So, are you ready? Yes. Okay, so it's fine. He's from Cartoon Base. But you know, imagination works with images. So, I talk, he's going to draw the images. Creative thinking, so much to tell. I select one idea for tonight. This one. For years, I was convinced in this creative thinking expression, the key word is creative. I changed my mind. Tonight, and I'm really convinced, the key word is not creative, it is thinking. And I put my whole story upside down. I'm going to talk first not about creativity, about thinking, about 10, 12 minutes. And then, and only then, we're going to move on to creative thinking. So it's upside down. So Let's start with thinking. In the end, what is to think? A question for you. How many colors in the rainbow? Tell me. 7. Thank you. Any other answer? 1,000,000. Yeah, that's a big difference. 1,000,000 minus 7 is still a lot. So how is it possible to give 2 different answers to this question? Another question first. You know Greece? Of course you know Greece. The Athens, you have this hill, Acropole. On the top of the hill, a temple called the Parthenon. Yeah? You know the Parthenon? Okay. How many columns on the front wall? You just told me you know the Parthenon, so I have an additional... Yeah. 7? No. By the way, it's 8, and we don't care. But what is really remarkable is often we say we know and we don't know. Of course, we know a bit. We know enough. And the 2 first exercises are really good to show something, the beginning of the thinking process. Let's make a long story short. We never have here what's out there. The rainbow has 1,000,000 colors, 2 million, billions colors. But we cannot process 1 billion of colors. So we have only 7 here, and it works. If you draw 7 colors, okay, fine. No problem, it's a rainbow. But like Magritte, the other side of the road, ceci n'est pas une pipe. This is not a pipe. It's the image of a pipe. So 7 is an image of the rainbow, exactly like the fuzzy image you have in your mind about the Parthenon is not the Parthenon. It's enough, it works, but it's not the Parthenon. So to think, let's compare with a game. Where does it happen? The playground is very easy. On one hand, you have the world in front of you. The reality, you have many, many names in front of you. You have the rainbow, the Parthenon, your competitors in front of you. On the other hand, on the left side, you have yourself, your mind. Your mind, and we know now that we never have here what's out there. It's the playground. Thinking occurs somewhere here. But it's not symmetric at all. On the reality side, the world, what could we say? First of all, most of the world is hidden. What do you see about the world? You read newspapers, you have but what do you see hidden? The world is diverse. The world is complex. The world is uncertain. Yeah, you can definitely write those. I can read it here. Fantastic. So you have the reality, a bit like the rainbow. You cannot put complexity, diversity, uncertainty in your mind. In our mind, on the left side, what do we have? Simple things. Categories, models, stereotypes, judgments, patterns, and so forth. The list is long. But we never have here what's out there. When a father or a mother tells somebody, I'm thinking about my children, this is true. When the CEO of a bank with 2 million clients tells a journalist, I'm thinking about my clients, this is not true. This is impossible. How do you want to think about 2 million people? It's not possible. It's not possible. So he is forced to the rainbow syndrome. He organized his market in categories. He has to do. He has no choice. If we move to your world, this remains true. Hidden. For example, maybe Google today has a huge project about public transportation. I don't know. You don't know. Maybe, let's remember, most of the world is hidden. Diverse. You have millions of clients. You know better than me how diverse it is. But they're not the same. They're all different. But you are like the CEO of a bank, and we will see it later. Uncertain. What's the future of the workplace? How people will work in the future? And I don't know, yeah, we'll see. Probably they want to work home. Maybe they're going to work on a way nobody has thought so far. Complex. Yes, probably. You have a building over there, Berlaymont, so maybe, yes, you know, so I don't have to detail. So this is complexity. So, but this is your world. But the rule of the game, yes, parfait. And in your mind, you are like the rainbow syndrome. Let's take diversity. What do? You have categories. Commuter, retired people, I don't know, because you cannot think about millions of passengers, of travelers. It's impossible. You organize in categories. Models, of course, your daily life, what do you look in front of you? You have models. In a way, we are still in the cave of Plato. We don't see the world. We see the world through models, patterns, shape, figures, numbers, etc. But we don't see the world. So this is good. Now we have the playground, and it's customized to this particular audience. Now let's move to the definition of thinking. Not too difficult. It happens there. But you have two different movements. Number one is up. It's called induction. It's the way we simplify the world. 7 colors. Why not 8? Why do 7 colors? It's a bit mysterious. This is induction. The other arrow moves from the simplification to the world. This is called deduction. Deduction is not too difficult. It's today for 80% on computers, maybe more, and I don't care. But now I have a definition of thinking. Thinking is mostly about simplifying the world and using the simplification. When you think, you're either there or there. Either you deduce from a hypothesis to the world, or you induce, you see the fuzzy world and you build categories, etc., etc. We now have the definition. Now a little exercise. I will ask you to go very quick. Play with me. So I will propose 2 short sentences, unfinished, and I will ask you to rapidly, really instinctively finish the sentence. Are you ready? Sentence number 1. An example of a car is Volkswagen. Thank you. Sentence number 2. The car is an example of? I got stupidity. I got vehicle. Mode of transport. Progress, pollution, good news for the fisc, for the tax, etc. Compare what happened. It's the whole story. Sentence number 1, an example of a car is Volkswagen. Okay, fine, you can say Renault, Ferrari. Nothing happens. You are in deduction mode. Look, the second sentence. What happened? Because of my sentence, I forced you to the concept. And what happened? Stupidity came first. Bon. A bit surprising. So then I had a vehicle of transportation. Okay, less surprising. Why? Because this is the comfort zone. It's less risky for him to tell vehicle than for her to tell stupidity. Imagine the debate now with this. But you got the message. Hola, there is a problem? Okay. Are you fine? Okay. Okay, I go on. You got the message. Deduction, in the deduction mode, you're not freedom is very limited. You can choose between Volkswagen and Renault, but this is not freedom. Look what happened in induction. I call the progress, stupidity, vehicle. The car is an example of something I'd like to draw. It's an example of a word of 3 letters, etc., etc. You see what he's drawing in red? It's the richness of induction. And that is where creativity can occur. I have a last thing to put on this chart. Box. Alain was talking about boxes and out of the box. Of course, out of the box is emblematic of this creative business. But one day you have to answer the question, what is the box in the end? I have 2 elements. First, boxes are on the left side. And I work with Martin for a long time, so we know where boxes are. If you are in a bank, to think out of the box doesn't mean to think out of the bank. It means to think out of the way you use to simplify this particular bank, which is completely different. And boxes are there. And then I can, because of this, move to the second part of the speech. You notice, so far, I haven't used the word creativity. You have the feeling, you know where it is. It's in the induction, because there a lot of things can happen. Before leaving this chart, let's remember one thing. A perfect deduction is possible. Not too difficult. A perfect induction is impossible. Why? Because you have to embrace the whole world. It's impossible. So it means that on the left side, on the model side, you can never achieve certainty. Never. Everything in your mind is a hypothesis. I'm working with ideas for a long time. The best definition I ever heard about an idea, it is a working hypothesis. An idea is a hypothesis. And now I'm going to move, and Martin will remove this sheet, and we're going to move to another blank sheet for the second part of this speech. Creative thinking. But it's easy now. Let's start with an example of something creative. Imagine a company with cafeterias all over the world. Coffee shops. Okay. The first idea for this company, okay, we're going to put coffee shops all over the world. So the first is on the left side. It's in your mind. It's in your mind. But it's a simplification. So far, it's fuzzy, like the Parthenon. But then with this idea, you can go down to the world. You can go and you can do a lot of things. Espresso, cappuccino, latte, double latte, triple latte, full latte, etc. But this is deduction. It's not too difficult to move from latte to super latte. No. A double cappuccino to triple cappuccino. It's deduction. A machine could do it. But one day, you need a big think, because competition is tough, etc., etc. And then, you remember? You have to go to induction. So we need a red arrow. You remember this one? This red arrow is exactly the same you saw for the induction mode. You take profit of the freedom you have, and sometimes you forget you have. So let's look at a set of cafeteria differently. And I can tell, okay, I'm in the real estate business. My business is about offices. And suddenly I see the cafeteria no more as a place where I drink coffee, but as a place where I work. The same person, it's not somebody with a cappuccino, it's somebody who is working. By the way, he has a cappuccino. That's not a problem. But you simplify differently. And then you can have new idea to improve the cafeteria. Like, let's put some Post-it. Let's put a printer. Let's put, I don't know, I read recently in the newspaper, in Moscow and St. Petersburg, they just opened a new concept of cafeteria. Everything is free, but the time. This is a breakthrough idea. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but of course, this is something really new. And what's interesting, you understand on the right side, you have innovation. The first set of innovation, cappuccino, latte, is innovation 1. Within the box coffee, you can have lots of ideas, no problem. This is called innovation. But to move from coffee to office, this is the creative shock, the creative shift, the quantum leap, This is creativity. Creativity is on the left side, in your mind. Innovation is in the world. And because you have a new way to look the office, you can move and enter a new era of innovation, what I call innovation 2. And you can go and develop this idea. So innovation is not creativity at all. Innovation is continuity, it's in the world, etc. And okay, no problem. Creativity is not in the world, it's in your mind. Creativity is not about changing the world, it's about changing the way you look at the world. And we know from the beginning, when we look at the world, we simplify the world. So in the end, the challenge is to change the way we simplify the world. And that's when Alain was talking about out of the box. Of course, out of the box remains the classic expression. I don't use it anymore because it remains true. We have to go out of the box. But in the end, the real challenge is, which is the new box? How do you move from coffee to office or to something else? And that's why my new book is called Thinking in New Boxes, because that is really the place where everything can happen. That's where it happened. So when we see this, office is not an idea for this company. It's another way to look at itself that in a second step allows a wave of idea, which I called innovation 2. Now, let's take the last 5 minutes and let's talk about you. I think you won't escape the same mechanic. Martin, could you put it back just one more second? This, Martin? Mm-hmm. Yes. So, something is impossible is to move from the coffee shop, simplification, straight to by the hour. This is not possible. Breakthrough ideas are never deduced. If you want to move to something like by the hour, you have to zigzag. You look at your first set of innovation differently, you design a new box, and then you go back to the world and you zig and zag, and that's the way you can reach ideas like that. Let's move now to yourself. Of course, I'm not from your business, so it's my point of view. You are quite successful. Why? Because the first box, at least the current box you're working in, is transportation. If you ask somebody, UITP or STIB or Thalys, transportation. So the box you are living in, the simplification of the world you're living in is transportation or synonymous, things like that. Within this box, you have booked some great success. You have trains, you have now like ticketless, you have Thalys, you have all this, and it is fantastic. It's fantastic. As Alain said, I'm a fan of public transportation. And this is innovation 1. But the world is changing. I have the privilege to work in many, many different areas. Retail, in banking, health, insurance, etc., etc. The problem is the same everywhere. Innovation 1 comes to not the end, but doesn't bring much anymore because the world is changing so much that a quantum leap, a creative shock is required. An idea to bring some fruit, you may not touch it. You have to freeze the strategy if you want the strategy to bring some profit, of course. The problem, the world is not frozen at all. So one day you need a new strategy, and a new strategy is a new simplification, and a new strategy, a simplification of your business. So you need a new one. You only have 2 options. Either you build yourself, or you're the victim of someone else. And I call this Eureka or Caramba. Eureka, you simplify differently what your business. Caramba, with a gun on your head, you're forced to do something which is less nice. The no change is not an option at all. The real option is Eureka and Caramba. So I will leave you with this wish. I wish you a Eureka. And what is a Eureka? It's like a shock in your mind. suddenly, not, I don't want you to leave your world. I need you. We need you. But we also need for you to see your world differently. And then when I prepare with Martin this thing, I say, okay, imagine induction. Let's take the profit of this induction I was talking at the beginning of the speech. And I say, okay, the same people, the same company, their new box is health. Health. Tomorrow, you don't have to see your business as a transportation, but as health. It's just a provocative approach. And I don't know anything about your business. But imagine you go back tonight, home, and say, you know what, darling, I changed business. I'm no more in the transportation business. I'm in the health business. And you see the world completely differently. And then you realize, by the way, we are already a bit in this business. If you go on a train, you are less stressed. And of course, but then let's do like Starbucks, of Lavazza or Illy, of the coffee shops. You can imagine lots of things for you. Why do people need fitness center? People need, I know, checkup. Sometimes I haven't done a checkup the last 5 years, and I'm nervous. I want to do it, but I never have the time. Why? I should do that in a station. And you can imagine lots of things. Why don't we have therapists on board? It takes a lot of time to go through with an analyst and psychotherapy. So let's do that on the train, etc., etc. Don't worry, I finish now. So thank you very much.
I guess you all agree that one of the rare quality of Luc is that when you listen to him, you have the impression that you are smart and that you are understanding the world. And there are very few people that are able to do this. So thank you very much, Luc, for your speech. Now, after this, moving our cells in our brain, now we're going to go more on the emotion side. We have now, for those who were at the General Assembly, of course, they know part of it. But we try to make a little bit of a surprise to kind of make a scenario around the new visual identity of UITP. And so normally, I don't know how it works, but at some point in time, they're going to have something appearing on the screen. I don't know when. Here it goes. This young lady here was also on the screen some times ago, as you may. Her name is Aliénor, which is very nice. And she apparently is one of the top gym expert of our age in Europe. So congratulations, Aliénor. And please. And then now the time for president. We don't see him too often because he's a very busy man. Sir Peter Hendy will now take the word for concluding this session before we enjoy the drink. Peter, you speak there, yeah, sir.
Prop myself up. Thank you, Alain. Not too much longer. Thank you to all of the members of UITP, our great association. We've spent the afternoon firmly looking forward at the Extraordinary General Meeting, Extraordinary General Assembly, on the membership and fee structure, very formally, and also on our services, and as you'll see, on our image. And what you've just seen is another expression of our determination to face the future, both of the organisation and of the cities and towns that we serve. For our members, as well as today's formalities, and a really stimulating presentation by Luc, which totally captivated me. I already think, actually, that I'm not sure I'm in the transport business anymore. I think I'm in the economic growth and social stability business, and I'm certainly in the customer service business, and I happen to do transport. Some days I wish I didn't. But I think if you think about the position of what we do in the cities of vitality that we operate, you can take quite a different view about how you fit in, which is the wrong place to mention the right thing, which is to say that actually certainly in London and in other places where far-sighted members have done it, actually we're proving the way with stuff like open data, where we're actually leading a whole section of the information management industry into a place they've never been themselves, and certainly public services haven't. So thank you, Luc. There's one last thing to say, which is new and different and looking to the future, which is that when you leave this evening, you'll get a copy of this report, The Future of Urban Mobility 2. And it's an updated version of Arthur D. Little's Urban Mobility Index, which is the best worldwide review of cities' mobility, maturity, and performance. It reveals that most cities are still quite poorly equipped to cope with the challenges to the city ahead, showing that there's significant room for improvement. And when you look at this work, you'll see that it identifies 3 strategic directions for cities, as well as 25 imperatives to consider when defining sustainable urban mobility policies. And as I said to start with, and as the whole theme of the day has been, actually this is looking firmly into the future. This is having regard to the great history of our associations and the cities we serve, but looking into the future and seeing what we can do better. And that's in the gift package that you'll get when you leave, together with 1 or 2 other bits and pieces. That's enough from me. We've had all the formal business. We have some guests and friends with us as well. The one thing I don't have is a glass, but I can still encourage those of you who do to enjoy the rest of the evening in informal circumstances, and maybe you join me with a toast to the future of the UITP and the cities we serve. The future of UITP. Thank you very much.